What's up? It's Marty 1983 and you are in the Nerd Nest. Well, it's almost the end of July. I hope everybody is staying cool. I'm still doing my live streams, as you can tell. I did one today, and I'm probably going to retool my Twitch channel. I want to try and get more viewers, and I might do some other I am going to do some other videos. But for now, it's time for another edition of 15-minute game show reviews. Alright, well, this video is about a game show that I think is definitely worthy of a revival. A lot of them are, honestly, but this one definitely. Plus, it would be a great way to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the first network in the United States, the National Broadcasting Company, or NBC.
This is the NBC Television Network.
Anyway, the reason for that is because it's their longest running game show. Specifically, I'll be discussing what is, to date, their last version of this program, and one a lot of 80s babies like me remember. It's time to focus on our classic concentration.
Behind these numbers is a puzzle. Can you solve it? N plus O, no. D plus ice, dice, no dice. If you can do that, you could win one of these 8 fabulous cars as we play Classic Concentration. And here's the host of Concentration, Alex Trebek.
Thank you, Gene. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to the show in which the ability to concentrate can be the difference between winning and losing some fabulous prizes. We're looking forward to an exciting game today.
In 1958, game show pioneers Jack Barry and Dan Enright created a show for the NBC television network based on the children's memory game, where they had to match the card with the one they just turned over. However, instead of playing cards, contestants matched the names of prizes hidden behind numbered spaces on a game board, which then reveal portions of a rebus, which is a type of puzzle where pictures, words, and symbols are combined to form a phrase or saying, with the players solving the puzzle winning all of their prizes. The original Concentration ran from 1958 to 1973, 14 years and 7 months and 3,770 telecasts, longer than any other game show on the Peacock network, hosted by Hugh Downs and then by Bob Clayton. A second version ran in syndication from 1973 to 78 with Jack Narz as host. 9 years later, NBC brought the show back again, this time as Classic Concentration, using a computer-generated game board, bigger prizes, and a new bonus round where a champion had a chance to win a brand new car, and it was hosted by one of the greatest game show hosts of all time. Classic Concentration premiered on NBC on May 4th, 1987, and ran until August 30th, 1991, though they would air reruns until at least 1994. It was produced by Mark Goodson Productions, who also produced the 1970s syndicated revival, though NBC has always owned the format. The host was the legendary Alex Trebek. Born in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada in 1940, Alex began his career for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, in the 1960s, with his first game show being the teen quizzer Reach for the Top from 1966 to 73. That same year, after moving to the United States, he hosted his first American game show, The Wizard of Odds, on NBC for 1 year, before hosting his first successful show, High Rollers, which he helmed twice for NBC from 1974 to 76, and again from 1978 to 80. Other shows he hosted in the 1970s and early 80s include the original Double Dare, the $128,000 Question, Pitfall in his native Canada, and Battlestars in 2 incarnations. Finally, in September of 1984, Alex would begin hosting the show that made him a household name and cultural icon, the syndicated revival of Jeopardy, which he would host for 36 years. Also, for 3 months in 1991, Alex actually hosted 3 game shows: Jeopardy!, Classic Concentration, and NBC's revival of To Tell the Truth, which had 2 previous hosts since its return in September of 1990, with Lynn Swan, and before that, Gordon Elliott. After the latter 2 shows ended by the fall of 1991, Alex would only host Jeopardy!, but he was set for life, and he would win 8 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Game Show Host, including a Lifetime Achievement Award, in addition to a Peabody and a star on both the Hollywood Walk of Fame and Canada's Walk of Fame, and appearing in many different TV shows and movies. Sadly, Alex died in November 2020 at the age of 80 after a 20-month battle with pancreatic cancer. His last episode of Jeopardy! Aired in January of 2021. Less than a year after his death, Stage 10 at Sony Pictures Studios, where Jeopardy! Had been taped since 1995, was renamed the Alex Trebek Stage in his honor. The show also had 2 models during its run. The first was a woman named Diana Taylor, who was then replaced 2 months later by Mark Goodson's daughter, Marjorie Goodson, who later became Marjorie Goodson Cutt after marrying producer Tim Cutt, and she would remain for the rest of the show's run. The announcer was longtime Goodson-Todman stalwart Gene Wood. A native of Massachusetts, Gene's announcing credits include the original Supermarket Sweep in the 60s, the 1969-72 version of Beat the Clock, which he also hosted in his later years, and both the original runs and revivals of Tattletales, Family Feud, and Card Sharks, along with Password Plus and Super Password. He also announced for the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, Love Connection, Win, Lose, or Draw, the 1990 revival of Match Game, and Family Challenge for its first season on the Family Channel. Gene also did voiceovers for the Game Show Network before retiring in 1998. He died in 2004. Also, fellow host announcer Art James filled in for Gene in July 1991 while he was recovering from surgery. The game was played like this. 2 contestants competed. One was usually a returning champion. The 2 contestants faced a computer-generated board of 25 numbered squares in a 5x5 grid. Behind those numbers were matching pairs of prizes, usually about 8 or 9 of them per puzzle, originally 10. Behind these prizes was a rebus puzzle that the contestants then had to solve. Or on occasion, anywhere from 2 to 4 squares were revealed at the beginning of a game. One of the prizes that could be won in the match was also shown to the contestants before the game began, and one of the locations with that prize was shown. Contestants then selected 2 numbered squares at a time during their turn, and if the prizes behind those numbers matched, that prize went to the player's prize column behind them, and those matching panels were electronically removed to reveal pieces of the rebus hidden underneath. Failing to match, passed control to the opposing contestant. During the show's run, there were also several bonus spaces. These included the wild card. These squares are good for an automatic match when found. There were always free wildcards on the board until February 15th, 1990. Occasionally, the second puzzle in an episode would only have 1 wildcard, which was always announced before the game started. If a contestant uncovered 2 wildcards in one turn, then that player received a $500 bonus. If they uncovered all 3 wildcards without matching a prize before doing so, then the potential bonus was doubled to $1,000. After which the player would pick a prize, which meant up to 5 spaces in the puzzle could be revealed. Contestants had to solve the puzzle with either of these bonuses in their possession in order to claim them. Take cards. These allowed the contestant to steal a prize from their opponent. If their opponent didn't have any prizes, the contestant saved the take for later use. Otherwise, the contestant could choose to take an opponent's prize immediately or save the take for later. If they chose to save it or could not use the take, they needed to make another match for the opportunity to use it later in the game. The take was first introduced on November 4th, 1987, and was colored green. The second take, colored lavender, was introduced on February 2nd, 1988. On February 9th, the lavender take was colored red and would remain so for the rest of the show's run. The takes had to be matched by color, i.e. red and red or green and green. Red and green was not considered a match. Once a player used a take, it was out of play for the rest of the game. It was possible for a contestant to earn both of the take cards, but they could only use one at a time if they did. Cash Pot. Introduced on November 13th, 1989, the Cash Pot was a cash jackpot that started at $500 and increased by $100 each day that it was not won. The highest it ever got was $1,400. Just like with any other prize, the contestant had to match them and then had to solve the puzzle with the cash pot in their possession in order to claim it. The cash pot was originally only featured in the first game until January 5th, 1990, when it moved to the second game through January 25th. Beginning January 26th, the cash pot could appear in either the first or second game. On at least 4 episodes, the cash pot appeared in both games. Eventually, the cash pot was moved to the second game permanently on July 27th, 1990. And finally, 5 bonus car seconds. Introduced on September 13th, 1990, this prize was normally featured in the second game of the day and rarely in the first. Contestants who solved the puzzle with this in their possession received an additional 5 seconds to use in the bonus round. Sometimes when it appeared, there was only one wild card on the board. The first player to solve the puzzle, regardless of how much was showing at that point, got to keep all the prizes in their prize column, if any. And depending on the format used, would go on to the bonus round for a chance to win a new car. If neither player could solve the puzzle in its entirety after the last few spaces has been cleared and it was fully exposed, Alex would break down the solution of the puzzle one symbol at a time until somebody could ring in and solve it. If time was running short while a round was in progress, all remaining prizes, wildcards, and takes, both claimed and unclaimed, would be taken out of play, and the remaining numbers on the board were removed one at a time in numerical order until somebody could ring in and solve the puzzle. For the contestant who rang in first, if they gave an incorrect response, they were then locked out, and their opponent got a free chance to solve the fully exposed puzzle in its entirety. If that player also could not solve the puzzle, then again, Alex would break down the puzzle one symbol at a time until somebody could ring in and solve it. On the rare instance, neither player was able to give a correct solution even after Alex gave all possible hints. The puzzle was thrown out, the prize columns were cleared, and a new puzzle was played in its place. During the first 15 months on the air, both the main game and the bonus round were played twice in each show. Originally, whoever solved the puzzle went on to the bonus round, while the loser was eliminated, except in the case of an interrupted game in the second game, in which the losing player would return to play the next match on the next episode as a challenger. Following a week-long experiment in July of 1988, beginning on August 9th and until June 28th, 1990, the game was played in a best 2 out of 3 match, with the first player to solve 2 puzzles winning the match and going to the bonus round. Unlike most game shows that tended to straddle when playing a best 2 out of 3 match, Classic Concentration had each game and the bonus round fit into one complete episode. The first game was split over the first 2 segments, with the second and, if needed, tiebreaker round taking up the third segment, and the bonus round was played during the fourth. The tiebreaker was played in speed-up mode without prizes, in which all 25 on the squares were slowly removed, one at a time in numerical order, to reveal the puzzle until somebody rang in and solved it. And from June 29, 1990 until the series finale, the game was changed once more to a 2-strike format, in which contestants were allowed to keep playing until they either won a car or lost 2 games, whatever came first. With this format, the show went back to playing the main game and the bonus round twice each day. In each half of the show, whatever contestant solved the puzzle went to the bonus round, while their opponent received a strike on a small box on top of their podium. If a contestant got 2 strikes by losing 2 games, they were eliminated from the competition altogether, but they still got to keep whatever cash and or prizes they won up to that point, if any. This format was experimented with briefly from March 15th to August 8th, 1988, before the 2 of 3 format was ultimately implemented. The bonus round, also called the car game, was played with a board of 15 numbered squares arranged in a 3x5 grid. Behind those 15 squares were the model names of 8 new cars on stage, usually a different 8 cars every 5 to 7 shows. These cars were worth anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 in price, sometimes over $12,000 depending on the type of the car. 7 of these cars were in matching pairs. One of them had no match and was just there to throw the player off. Using the time that they were allowed, contestants were to match up the 7 paired cars before their time ran out. If this happened, the last car they matched was the car that they won. First-time contenders in the bonus round were given a base time of 35 seconds to work with. Every time the bonus round was not won, the time on the bonus round clock increased by 5 seconds, and it kept on increasing in that fashion until somebody won a car, after which the clock would be reset for the next bonus round back to the base time of 35 seconds. The highest time the clock ever got to before somebody won a car was 75 seconds, and it happened at least twice. When the 2-strike format returned in 1990, each contestant built up their own bonus round time starting at 35 seconds and increasing each time they failed to win. If a contestant failed to win after earning the 5 bonus car seconds, that bonus was included in all subsequent bonus rounds for that contestant. Before the return of the 2-strike format, bonus round time increased or reset regardless of who went to the bonus round. Champions retired from the show upon winning a car. There was also an audience game used if there was extra time when an audience member who was pre-selected before taping began playing the bonus round and had 60 seconds to match dollar amounts ranging from $5 to $100. The audience member kept any amounts they matched, which accumulated as they went along, or got $500 for clearing the whole board. Finally, Classic Concentration also had 2 Tournaments of Champions, one in 1989 and again in 1990, involving 10 contestants who won the bonus round in the shortest length of time, competing to win more prizes and another car, and the winner of the whole shebang getting a large 5-figure cash bonus, $25,000 for the first tournament, $10,000 for the second. And that is how Classic Concentration was played. Now let's focus our energy and grade it. Concentration was a challenging but fun game show that took a children's matching game and added the element of solving the rebus underneath for contestants to win all their prizes. It was a winning formula, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it had been successful in the past, as the original version ran on NBC for almost 15 years and was the longest-running game show on the network. Of course, NBC leased the show to Mark Goodson and Bill Todman Productions after the original run ended in 1973, where it found a new life in syndication, running for another 5 years. In 1985, NBC asked Goodson Todman to produce a pilot for an attempted revival, with Orson Bean hosting the pilots, but with slightly different gameplay, before deciding to stick with the classic format and choosing Alex Trebek to host it, though he gave up his role as producer on Jeopardy to do so. Classic Concentration premiered on NBC on May 4th, 1987, and they placed it at 10:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 a.m. everywhere else, replacing the short-lived revival of Blockbusters hosted by Bill Rafferty, which itself displaced Sale of the Century after 3 years, causing that show to move up half an hour to 10 a.m., where it would remain until it ended in March of 1989. Classic Concentration stayed in the 10:30 slot until August 31st, 1991, when NBC canceled both it and the daytime Wheel of Fortune, which had moved back to NBC in January after a year and a half on CBS, as daytime game shows were becoming unviable thanks to affiliates replacing them with either local news or syndicated talk shows. However, NBC began airing reruns of Classic Concentration starting on October 21st, 1991 until at least December 31st of 1993, though I do remember seeing it as late as early 94 before it disappeared altogether. The show wouldn't be seen in reruns again until 2018, when Buzzer, which is owned by Fremantle, who is the current owner of the Goodson-Todman Library, began airing both Classic Concentration and the 1970s syndicated version with Jack Nars, and they still do to this day, to my knowledge, though the Concentration IP itself is still owned by NBC, as Jack Barry and Dan Enright sold it to the network after their fall from grace due to the quiz show scandals. Anyway, Classic Concentration was a modern twist on a proven format. The gameplay itself was simple, but it was still challenging, as contestants had to remember where each prize was when they tried to make their matches. Sometimes a contestant might have been thrown off by seeing a prize they didn't see before that point, and then make a mistake, possibly costing them a win. The rebuses were always fun to try to put together as well, and it was always fun watching people win all those great prizes. The bonus round was fun too. Of course, it was hard to win a car with a base time of only 35 seconds, but it was still exciting when someone did win it. However, I do have 2 complaints about the show. They're not too serious, though. First, it's not the gameplay itself, but the scoring format. They had 3 different formats during the show's run when it came to determining a champion. They should have just picked one and stuck with it. I personally prefer the 2-3 match format, which was used on other game shows in the past. They should have just stuck with that. The only other beef I had is that a contestant could end up solving the puzzle but not winning any prizes. In fact, one contestant became champion without winning any prizes, though they came back on the next show and did win something. Another prizeless champ even retired after they won the bonus round and left with a new car. However, I do wish they had given them at least $100 for solving the puzzle if they didn't have any prizes on their side. They also should have given the champion $100 for each match they got in the bonus round if they didn't win the car. And the base time should have at least been 45 seconds. Other than those caveats, I have no serious complaints, and Classic Concentration was great. As for host, Alex Trebek really was the greatest of all time. He could host any show, and he had wit, charisma, poise, and a perfect leadership ability. And on this show, he seemed a bit more laid back and less serious than he was on Jeopardy. In fact, he even acted somewhat flirtatious with the female contestants, and he was also a bit sarcastic now and then. It's obvious he had a good rapport with the contestants and also with announcer Gene Wood and model Marjorie Goodson Cutt. There's no denying the fact that Alex was the ideal game show host and really was the greatest of them all, and no one can replace him. That said, Classic Concentration updated an old format for the 80s that combined luck and skill, rewarding players with fabulous prizes, added an exciting new bonus game, and was led by the best host of all time, and as such it gets a solid A. And of course, this is how I talk about where I'd revive the show if I had the chance. Keep watching, NBC executives. I want you to do it this way. Supposedly, NBC did consider reviving Concentration back in 2000, but instead opted to add another hour to the Today Show. Well, hopefully since NBC is now celebrating their 100th anniversary, why not bring back one of their best game shows for a new generation? The game would still use the best 2 of 3 format that was used from 1988 to 90, but in addition to any prizes won, $1,000 in cash would be awarded, so that way a contestant wins something if their prize column was blank. The prizes would also increase in value in each round. The cash pot would be brought back in the second game, but would start at $1,000 and increase by that much each day until it was claimed. The losing contestant would be given a $500 consolation prize if they got swept by their opponent 2-zip. The card game would be played the same as before, but with a base time of 45 seconds, although a champion still retires if they won the car. However, if they fell short, $500 would be paid for each match. And the show would also have a tournament of champions at the end of each season, with the winner getting an additional $50,000 in cash. As for host, I'd go with Ken Jennings. He has proven himself to be the rightful successor to Alex on Jeopardy, so it'd be fun to see if he could host another show that Alex helmed. Mayim Bialik is also a possibility, as is Jeopardy champ James Holzhauer. Jay Leno could also try it out since he's a car fan and the grand prize is a car, although he is more or less retired from TV now. My choice for announcer would either be Rich Fields, Burton Richardson, or Neil Ross. Anyway, that is my most recent edition of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. Remember to subscribe to my channel, smash the like button, check me out on Twitch, get the word out. Excuse me, you get the idea. I will be going to San Diego tomorrow, and I will be having a good time, but I'll be working on my videos there as well. Until then, I am Marty1983, and I am logging out of the Nerd Nest.